Oconee County, Georgia dot civic portal at what? Dot what? At civic portal dot?
Oconee County, Georgia, portal. Good evening. Welcome to the Oconee County Board of Commissioners meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 30th, 2024. After a moment of silence, we're going to ask Chuck Horton to lead us in the pledge to the flag. Please stand.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, we need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item is statements and remarks from citizens. This is for anything not on the agenda tonight. Do you have any statements or remarks from commissioners? Next time is discuss a resolution supporting the Governor and General Assembly of Georgia continuing efforts to reform and improve mental health services to citizens of Georgia. So ACCG has been talking about mental health for the last few years. And they've asked that all counties pass a resolution. So we've modified ours just a little bit, but we do have a resolution. I'll read it into the record and then we can go from there. Whereas being the constitutional level of government closest to the constituents, Georgia County is on the front line of responding to mental health issues within the community, as well as development of mental health reform efforts. Whereas Oconee County Board of Commissioners support efforts designed to provide every citizen in need have access, affordable, and adequate mental health services. Whereas the Oconee County Board of Commissioners is grateful for the efforts of the Georgia's executive, legislative, and judicial branches in working toward mental health reform in recent years, such as passage of H. Bill N13 in 2022 and the introduction of House Bill 520 in 2023. Now be it therefore resolved that the Oconee County Board of Commissioners specifically supports the Governor and General Assembly as they continue their efforts in the 2024 session of the Georgia General Assembly to enhance Georgia citizens' access to vital mental health services. That is the resolution. So they're waiting to present this to the state House and Senate, as well as the governor. So if we can, there are no discussion items on this, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. We approve resolution as submitted.
Do we have a motion second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Next item is discuss amending the resolution for the issuance of citations for county ordinances.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This is the annual update to make sure the employees enforcing the citations comply with our current roster. Request approval as presented.
Any questions on this item? We are for consent agenda.
Yes.
Next item is discuss the FY23 ARPA contract update with Northeast Georgia Regional Commission. Ms. Mary?
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Northeast Georgia Regional Commission, who has our contracts for senior center funding, is taking the remaining ARPA funds that were allocated in the state FY23 contract and reallocating them into an FY 24 contract. These ARPA funds will support senior recreation and congregate meal programs, along with some additional funding from the state and federal resources for additional support of the congregate meal program. As such, any of the remaining FY 23 ARPA funds for home delivered meals program will be added back accordingly. The effective date for the funding revisions was November 21st, 2023. The impact for the county senior center is matching funds of $3,462.39. And that was all for that one.
Do we have any questions, Amelia? Be all right for consent agenda?
Yep.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Our next one is the FY 24 Aging Services Contract Update.
Yes, sir. In summary, this is a contract amendment of the state fiscal year FY 24 Aging Services Contract with Northeast Georgia Regional Commission to increase state allocated funds for the congregate meal program as well. The current contract is $79,330.84. The proposed amendment in the amount of $4,200 would increase the total state allocated funding to $83,530.84. Effective date of the funding increase is also November 21st, 2023.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on this item? You all right for consent agenda? Any public comment? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the FY 24 mid-year budget amendment request.
Thank you. Good evening. I am presenting mid-year budget amendments for fiscal year 2024. So through the current year through June 30th of 2024 for both the general fund and other funds of the county. The listing that you have before you divides the funds into different types of budget amendments. And I'll go through those so that everyone knows what's included in the request. The amendments on the general fund increase revenues and expenditures, so it's a balanced budget amendment. The revenues include insurance premium taxes at $148,192, interest revenues at $223,942, and ARP grant funds of $50,000. Those revenues have already been received. And one additional revenue item, intergovernmental, of $290,000, which is planned to be received. Those revenues would cover the following expenditures in the general fund: increase in human resources software at $14,000, building moving services of $16,897, shared supplies. Now that we're in the administrative building, supplies aren't kept so departmental. $10,700. Increase in property and liability insurance, $7,855. Rental of warehouse space for operations at $9,000. Increase in fleet diagnostic equipment of $3,990. IT on-site services for $38,235. For law enforcement, additional 13 flock cameras at $40,950, along with the generator installation of $15,000. Magistrate court prosecutor supplement, increasing $10,500. EMA personnel increase due to grant reduction, $2,007. Animal services, professional services and supplies at $50,000. The general fund support of 2 UPS pieces of equipment at E911 towers, $70,000. For Public Works, the Hillsborough Road project at $10,500 and the North High Shoals paving agreement at $285,000. Those two line items be covering by the intergovernmental revenue mentioned. For planning, plan review services at $120,000, along with additional credit card fees of $7,500 related to new services that are now available to be paid for online. Additional amendments also covered by revenues specific to the expenditure. We have the sale of the annex, and we'd like to transfer funds to the capital fund and assign those funds to Dawson Park. Likewise with the library, those amounts are $1,857,000 and $1,582,115. Using local option sales taxes to cover Series 2022 debt and principal of $71,830. It's our one amortization schedule that doesn't have fixed principal and interest amounts. Election expenditures and the related reimbursement of $15,975. And road department safety equipment purchases covered by grant funds at $8,500. The other few items for the general fund are transfers. So when we prepare our budget, we have internal policies that anything in personnel, operations and maintenance, and capital don't cross between one another. So we're requesting to move funds from coroner personnel to operations and maintenance for transports at $3,455. Shifting across departments for shared copiers, $17,500. Moving funds from repairs and maintenance at the jail down to capital for a water heater purchase of $13,370. And moving fleet equipment down to capital diagnostic equipment at $11,190. Other funds, budget amendment, this is expenditures only for water resources. This is bond interest on the 2023 series issuance for Hard Labor Creek. For FY24 is $237,405. In our capital fund, using some of the assigned fund balance and budgeting $81,000 for the multi-use path right-of-way services and acquisitions. And then the remaining items are revenue neutral. For special revenue, contributions and events for law enforcement at $26,300. Animal services contract labor covered by grant at $15,000. Management fees covered by interest in our capital financing fund of $1,050. Using SPOS revenues towards Oconee Veterans Park Tennis Court Improvement Engineering at $100,000. E911 cell and landline revenues covering HVAC installations and a software increase of $7,000 and $8,015 respectively, as well as tower light systems replacement of $19,500. And then the general funds contribution towards the 2 UPS units in the towers of $70,000. And bond proceeds covering the cost of issuance for the debt. Again, this is the Hard Labor Creek issuance of $300,348. And a transfer of an E911 HVAC upgrade that was budgeted in small equipment and moving that down to capital. It's $10,712. So that concludes the listing. That's there for your consideration. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
We have any questions on the budget amendments and transfers?
I've got one, just to make sure, thank you for explaining each of those line items. Does any of these, adjustment increase our full-time equivalent?
No, sir, it does not.
Does it reduce any of them?
No, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? You all right for consent agenda? Thank you. You have any public comment on that item? The next item is discuss the renewal of the Georgia Mutual Aid Agreement. CJ?
Good evening, Commissioners. Before you have a Georgia statewide mutual aid agreement. This allows us to broker both providing and receiving resources in the event of some sort of a disaster or one of our neighbors experiencing a disaster. This is the exact same agreement that we executed in 2020. It's just a renewal. Be happy to take any questions.
Any questions on this? You all right for consent?
Thank y'all.
Any public comment? Next time to discuss the FY24 BOCA grant award allocation.
Thank you, Chairman. The Criminal Justice Coordinating Council has approved their VOCA continuation of funds. That's Victims of Crime Act for federal fiscal year 2024, which begins October the 1st through September the 30th of 2024. They have approved funding for Oconee County at $143,475 on behalf of the Western Judicial Circuit District Attorney's Office. And they've issued this grant number C23-8-101 And the grant funds are used to cover 3 victims advocate positions and the benefits of one of those positions. The 25% match for the grant has been waived. So the recommendation is approval of the BOCA grant continuation. Again, the amount is $143,475.
Thank you
That's
for
all.
that
Thank
brief
you.
explanation of the BOCA. Any questions on this item? We are for consent agenda. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any public comment? Next item is to discuss the GDOT lighting agreement for the roundabout at State Route 15 at the Administrative Building.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This item of business is to discuss and consider a lighting agreement with Georgia Department of Transportation, and that is for the roundabout right here at the Administration Building. We've worked with Walton EMC. They have the fixtures in hand, and they just need this part of the agreement to get their permit to work in GDOT right of way. And the financial impact would be that we would cover the monthly electricity charge for the lights. And it's very similar to some of the lighting agreements that that the board's already approved. And Public Works recommends approving and executing the Georgia DOT lighting agreement for this intersection.
Any questions on this one? You all right for consent? Any public comment? Our next item is discuss an amendment to the MOU with St. Mary's related to emergency medical services. So, as most of you know, the hospitals used to provide EMS service. They farmed that out to National EMS in the early 2000s, I think it was. And then in 2013, we entered into agreement with the hospital, specifically St. Mary's. So St. Mary's controls this zone for Oconee County. We agreed to pay $100,000 to them. And so each Oconee, Clark, and then each hospital each pay $100,000 to National for a total of $400,000 subsidy. Part of that agreement provided for a oversight committee, and that committee would meet once a quarter. They would review reports submitted by National EMS, and they would also do quality assurance on some of the calls. They would look at calls and see what happened. There's been a Clark County, well, there was a challenge for the oversight committee that it has to be open to the public. And based on that, the hospitals have concerns with HIPAA violations, having that data out there and some of that information. So what each county and each hospital is doing is updating the agreement to take out reference to the oversight committee. So that committee will no longer meet. In exchange for that, we're going to get quarterly reports from National EMS each quarter. And then annually, National will come before the Board of Commissioners and present the data, response times, number of units that were available, whether they advanced life support or basic life support. Basically, all the information that was provided to the Oversight Committee. In addition, St. Mary's will provide us with a contact. So if we have a complaint or a concern about a particular call, then somebody from their medical staff can interact with National to review that call and give us a summary back that does not violate any patient privacy rights. Any questions on that so far? So we've submitted this to St. Mary's. It has not quite completed their internal review for approval yet. So we can't go to consent agenda and wait till next week and bring it back up. And they'll give you a little more time to look at it if you have any more questions on that. Our next item is discuss awarding the project management consulting services contract.
This item of business is award of RFP 24-08-001 and to procure consultant services to aid the county in project management for SPLOST and T-SPLOST projects. 6 firms submitted proposals. The proposals were scored based on the response to the RFP references and a fee schedule. The top-ranked firm was Atlas Technical Consultants, and Public Works recommends awarding the contract to Atlas Technical Consultants.
Any questions on this item? You all right for consent agenda? Thank you. Any public comment? Our next item is discuss the approval of engineering for Heritage Park Master Plan.
Good evening. As you all are aware, all the park and recreation master plans were completed and approved in 2023. And the next step for the Heritage Park Plan improvements is to go into the engineering documents and completion of those. We recommend approval of the Heritage Park engineering design contract. This does require a budget amendment from fund balance in the capital funds for the life of the project. And the engineering costs for the project are $132,500 plus $27,000 for bid construction administration for a total of $159,500. Any questions?
Any questions for Lisa on this one? You all right for consent agenda? Any public comment? Thank you. We do not have need of an executive session, so Commissioner Saxon,
Motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned.